after this long day. It's only one more after this, but for now it gives me a great pleasure to introduce David O from Red Hat.
Thank you so much, and then yeah, thank you so much, and I'm super happy for be here, and then so excited. My first time in Stockholm, by the way, but I've been a lot of country in Europe, but this is my first time. I'm super happy to be here, and I should maybe wear my sunglasses here because it's too shiny for me. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, thanks for joining my session. So I'm going to talk a little bit about zero to hero in Kubernetes Java. I'm pretty sure a lot of people are actually like Java developers here, and even like some software engineer. And then I'm not sure how many people actually have some experience to deploy your application to Kubernetes. Pretty good, pretty good, pretty good. So, so normally the developer actually, yeah, the Kubernetes or cloud is not my stuff because I just only focus on my application development, my local, like a Mac OS and a Windows and then like a Linux operating system. And then when I push my code into the GitHub repository, that's it. My job is done. And then you're a fantastic CI/CD, like a QA team or a DevOps team, just deploy your application Kubernetes or even public cloud, or AKS, EKS, things like that. You got some error, your SR team, and then made a phone call at the middle of the night, developer, hey Dan, we got some issue. I think so your like a problem, your application some kind of problem. And then I would say that's not possible because I've already verified my application like a test environment and in my local machine, 100% sure. But it actually, you got some missing some point in Kubernetes or even public cloud environment. So today I'm going to really showcase how to make your application pretty much a Kubernetes native application, specifically Java. So once again, my name is Daniel. I'm working for Red Hat as a developer advocate. And then a little bit more of the cloud native foundation stuff, like an ambassador thing. I pretty much focus on Java runtime, like a Spring Boot and Quarkus, and then JavaScript as well. And then pretty much he spent time bring more Java application workload into serverless and then service mesh and then GitOps pipeline, etc. I'm not sure how many people actually, maybe some people actually joined the yesterday, my hands-on workshop with some the AWS folks, like how to develop and build your Java application using Quarkus into Amazon Lambda in a DynamoDB. So here's my contact information, Twitter, and then YouTube channel, and my GitHub repo. Yeah, feel free reach out to me if you have any question around these technologies, and then myself, and then here's my some kind of book, things like that. Okay, so this is my last slide today. So this is some the illustration. There are many features in Kubernetes, and then how to make your application like a Kubernetes native. Some people try to use it interchangeably with the cloud native and Kubernetes native. But cloud actually was born for Kubernetes in 2014. The Kubernetes was born. So you can say your deploy can be running on cloud like Amazon, Google, Microsoft. You can say my application cloud native, but that is not whole true. So you can implement some kind of feature like a fault tolerance or like some routing or cloud routing or some like some the other the 12-factor stuff. You can implement that kind of feature on your application side, as well as you can actually delegate that capability into your cloud feature. So once you ship that kind of thing to cloud, you can say your application cloud native. However, cloud maybe not have Kubernetes by default. In that case, if you, as long as you want to deploy your application Kubernetes, and then you need to think about how make my application more Kubernetes native, which means you can maybe get rid of some feature and then put it into your Kubernetes. For example, here, Kubernetes config is externalize your configuration into Kubernetes. As long as your application is shutting down or redeploy and scale out, Kubernetes automatically attach your configuration rather than you don't need to use a Spring config or externalize application server or metadata database or something like that. Also, you can store your DB credential or some secret token key into Kubernetes secret. So this is a whole kind of thing, how make your application pretty much more Kubernetes native application. So let it be to superhero to Kubernetes-native Java application. So if you have some chance to stop by the Red Hat booth, I can bring some the Red Hat Quarkus sticker. As you can see, this is my favorite thing. It's actual Git list. All right, I'm gonna start my presentation. That's all I have. So hopefully everybody see my terminal here. So I'm gonna make it a little bit bigger for you guys. So there are several ways how to start your Quarkus application development. You can go to quarkus.io and then like a start coding, like a code generator, just like a Spring Boot, like a Spring initializer. So you can change your group ID or artifact name, and then you can prepare a tool like a Maven Grado or even Kotlin wrapper, and then you can change your Java version and then some sample application. And the more important thing, you can set it up any kind of capability more than 500, which means you can develop like a REST API or the DB transaction or cloud. And then you can just click and then select and then generate G file and then the download and unzip and then just starting your application using Prepare ID tool. However, I'm going to try to use Quarkus CLI today, which is one of my favorite because I don't want to remember all parameters or argument on Maven or Gradle command line. So Quarkus CLI provide many automation feature. You don't need to remember that, but I don't want you to use the Quarkus CLI every one because it's just your option. So I'm going to try to create a new Quarkus, create a project. Let's say the project name Kubernetes-native Java. As you can see, the bunch of the files just automatically generated like a Maven wrapper or Quarkus configuration and Docker file in case you want to deploy the application to container platform. I'm going to change the directory. I'm going to run my application based on like my Prepare IDE. So as you go to the Quarkus, this is a Maven project by default, and this is a new version, Quarkus is 2.16. So community Quarkus actually release every other week. So it's super fast, keep changing, keep evolving. And then we are looking forward to upgrade the Quarkus 3 in the middle of February. Based on the Quarkus 3, it support like a project room, and then Hibernate like a 6 and the microprocessor 6 and the Jacquard EE10. And there are a bunch of the new features coming to the Quarkus 3, so stay tuned. And then the application, as you can see, the Java application, pretty simple, like a hello world. The first thing for us, the Quarkus actually provide the Quarkus dev mode. It's a development mode. You can run the Quarkus application as developer, and then you automatically start Quarkus application provide like a live coding capability. As you can see here, so Quarkus live coding activated, and which means so whenever you change the code, it automatically compile, rebuild, restart, and redeploy. You don't need to do that by manual, just like you have been doing for the last 10 years. It's not going to happen Java world. It's more like a JavaScript thing. And then I'm going to go switch my terminal window and then try to access my application just to make sure sanity test hello from REST is a reactive thing. And then when I click on press R here, the resume testing, which allows me to have continuous testing. Everybody aware of test-driven development, which is really cool, important, but as an individual developer, that's totally pain in the ass because I don't want to spend a lot of time to create a test case. But this is super important, but super boring. But I'm pretty sure I know who I am. I'm pretty sure my application perfect. But the other team doesn't believe me. That's the problem. So how to do that? Okay, so you need to add like testing some tool on your Java framework. I want to add some like a testing tool, check style, and the other stuff, and then but black dog, and then but sometimes I need to upgrade the version, and sometimes it doesn't work. I don't need to spend a lot of time to figure it out. However, the application architect or your team leader, you need to make sure your application totally working, not only your local environment, but also your test case. So if you could, that kind of capability as out-of-box feature on your Java framework, that'd be awesome. That is a Quarkus continuous testing. And then you can press like some W, you can actually bring into the Quarkus, the welcome page, and then you can dev UI, which is another good thing to showcase the graphical UI. I know a lot of people still prefer to use the terminal window. I'm actually prefer the terminal stuff. But a lot of people, and like a junior Java developer, they really love to GUI rather than terminal. And then in that case, they go to this UI, and then you can see what kind of extension. You can say like a maybe dependency or grid module you already install. And then you can have some build state, what happened in the Quarkus inside. Because Quarkus actually shipped all kind of stuff from runtime to build time. So like annotation scanning, parse descriptor, and enable disable some features. And then it all happening build time rather than runtime. That's why Quarkus is super fast to run rather than the other Java framework, regardless of JVM or GraalVM stuff. And then I go back, and then you can actually open the read-only view, and then here's the test result. The green means everybody's happy. Red means everybody's angry. So everybody happy right now. So my test is a case, a pass, and then your test is a pass. So if I go back to my application, and then let's try to change, because the test case automatically generated when I build my application from scratch. And then if I change my application, something like a hello J focus here, focus here, 2023. And just save a file, and back to here, and just invoke REST API, and then I got a new result here. Hello, JFocus 2023. But in the meantime, I didn't even try to rebuild, recompile, restart, and then redeploy my application. So that's usually live coding means, and then just like a JavaScript stuff. And then the developer only focus on changing your application and then implement your business logic. It's pretty awesome, and then it increases your developer productivity in the end. However, when I go back to runtime, oh, I got an error because I expecting less easy reactive, but you just change the logic. But when I checked my application functionality, it's still working. So maybe this is super simple example. Maybe you can maybe miss some mistake when you develop application. You can now also check this out in your web UI, and then you can see that the same result, and the red means everybody met right now, and you can see rest easy reactivity kind of stuff. So I'm going to go back to my application to fix the problem. Back to the here, and then hello, JFocus 2023, and I save a file, and back to the my terminal, and now you can see the test is passing. So I don't just save a file, but some people a little bit doubt it because you just change one word in the application in Java method. Is it still working live coding and continuous testing? So I'm going to try to showcase this is a super important thing, proper your application deployed to Kubernetes. So let me try to add a few more REST API today. So I'm going to try to copy existing REST test case, and let's say to changing name like a greeting, and then new REST endpoint like a sometime greeting. And then I'm going to change it to Kubernetes-native Java with the Quarkus, save a file, and then back to my terminal. Now I got to see new error. So I got a new error, like a 404 error, which means, oh, I just edited my new test case. However, I don't have any matching RESTful API resources right now. So that's Quarkus just let you know, oh, what kind of problem you have right now. And then back to the application. And then let's try to add a new REST API here. Let's try to change the method name, and then I'm going to add new path, something like, let's say the greeting. And then here we go, and then like a Kubernetes Java with, I'm going to add, not going to add a static, like I'm going to try to name, because a lot of people actually try to access the compilation from your local property file. And then let's say the name, and then I'm going to set the name and the save a file, and then back to the terminal. And now you got us the new error here. So we cannot find your name, key, and value on your local file system. So, okay, so no problem. So I got my application property, and I'm going to say name like a Quarkus, just like the test case. And back to here, now you got two test cases to succeed. And then when you go to invoke, and then just to make sure your function is working, now I have Kubernetes Java with the Quarkus. In the meantime, I just keep changing my application, but I don't need to try to rebuild, recompile, but continue to keep alerting me, you got some problem, and then you now it's okay. Green means everybody happy, but red means everybody angry. So this is how it works, your developer productivity increasement. And the one interesting part here, the web UI here, in a configure editor. So sometimes you don't understand what kind of configuration key and value actually define your application properly or local file system. And this dev UI configurator showcase that kind of stuff, avoid like a human error. And then the Quarkus 2. So I'm just trying to use Quarkus 2.16.1. So I gotta change the Quarkus 2 and then save it here. And then back to the terminal and then try to invoke once again. And now I got the Kubernetes-native Java with the Quarkus 2. So what happened in my local file system? Because if I back to here, it actually changed my local file system automatically directly from the web UI. However, I got one missing piece because I got an error because the Quarkus is expecting Quarkus. So it keep working, and then back to the application, and then fix the problem, back to the test case, and then I change that, and then now I got two cases of passing. So I just spent like a 7 minutes to add a new REST API and test case, but I don't need even to try to some a normal thing, just to keep adding REST API and then test case, but the other stuff, the Quarkus automatically handle that. And now I'm going to try to add for a little bit more realistic case, like some CRUD capability, like a database interaction. So in order to that, I'm going to open my container runtime first. And then I'm going to change my directory right away. And then I'm going to add a few extensions like PostSQL and then Hibernate ORM and then the Jackson, REST Jackson to consume produce like a JSON file format. So many developers, including me, I really prefer to use in-memory database rather than like a real database on my local machine. I don't want to use a bunch of the memory on my and CPU resources on my running on the database. However, something happening and something doesn't work when you use in-memory database because your cloud or production environment not using in-memory database. It's like a PostSQL, Oracle database, or MongoDB, or the other stuff. So Quarkus provide dev services. So when I go to Docker process, it automatically stand up. But the Quarkus actually automatically load, but I got some error because as you see, you have two different format here. So one is Quarkus actually built on reactive engine based on Netty and Vertex, which means you can develop non-reactive programming as well as reactive programming on top of the Quarkus, but you cannot do that at the same time in the same method. So I actually starting reactive programming, but you just edited like a database transaction based on non-reactive programming. That's why Quarkus automatically alert you. And then I'm going to go to POM.xml, and then I'm going to try to use non-reactive programming in the save file. And then as you can see, there's no Docker process at this moment. And then it's automatically restart, and then you can see, so Quarkus dev services automatically started, and then back to here. And then now I have a PostSQL container automatically stand up. This is based on test container, but I don't need to add like a test container, like a dependency on my POM.xml. The Quarkus automatically figured out, oh, you just added a database, like a extension, which is a dependency, like a JD's PostSQL, Hibernate ORM, which means the Quarkus expect, oh, you're gonna try to develop like a database transaction. At this moment, I'm more than happy to stand up your container image for you, as long as you have a container runtime on your local machine, like a Docker Podman. And then when you stop Quarkus dev mode, it automatically stop and terminate the running container process. Pretty easy and then pretty convenient. And then when you go back to like a dev UI, and then there are actual dev services, this is super interesting. So the default configuration, how to access my database, like a PostSQL, username, password, and JDBC URL, you automatically set it up. You don't need to even add this configuration on your file. You can also, of course, override whatever you need, but the point is, when you go to application, you cannot see any kind of database configuration, but still you can access the database. So let me try to add a few loads, business loads here, like some entity, like a person, stuff. here, and then I'm gonna set, this is a entity, and then I'm gonna make some cacheable, a little bit more faster, and extend Panache entity. So this is a Panache project, really awesome, because when you create like a OR mapping with Hibernate ORM, your Java beans, you need to implement some kind of fundamental operation stuff. For example, getter setter, and then retrieve the whole data and find by unique ID, or insert the data and delete data and update data, etc. You need to override or rewrite a definition on your like a Java class, like a Java beans, like a mapping ORM mapping stuff. However, the Panache entity based on Panache entity base already define that kind of all fundamental data operation by default. You don't need to implement that kind of stuff on your Java class anymore. It's pretty much clean, make your clean application code. So I'm gonna add my a few attributes, like for example name, and then I'm gonna add one more thing, like some location stuff. That's it. This is my entity class. And I'm going to add a new REST API. For example, here, I'm going to try to produce like a JSON. And then let's say to REST API person. And then I'm going to return the REST type person. And then let's say REST all. And then person and REST all. That's it. It's pretty simple. Let's try to create one more to REST API based on based on the ID stuff. And then let's say try to one parameter ID, and then it's not list type collection. It's just to return one person object, and let's say to find by ID the method name and path param. Let's say the ID and long type, and then I'm going to try to return okay. I just created two methods here, the list all data and then find by specific ID, and then I'm going to try to add some SQL stuff. I don't need to create like a create table or things like that, because the Quarkus dev service automatically create the data schema. So I just need to insert some fundamental data, insert into, let's say, the database name person and values. And then this is a Hibernate, which means I can use the Hibernate sequence. I'm going to make sure Hibernate, no typo sequence, and then my name is Dan, and I'm from Boston, United States. And then I'm gonna add a few more data, for example, like a team, like from like a San Francisco, and then like a Sam from like a New York City. That's it. I don't think I have any typo here. Yeah, finger crossed. And then back to the here, and then I'm gonna try to call the new REST API, the hello person. Now I got three data, like a Dan, team, and Sam. Pretty awesome. And then I'm going to try to access any ID. You got this new result. So in the meantime, I keep adding the CRUD capability, but REST API, but it's automatic stand-up Database services. Now I'm going to try to deploy this application to Kubernetes, because I need to make sure my application totally working on top of the Kubernetes. So to do that, I needed to add another configuration, like a OpenShift, which allows me to generate a bunch of the Kubernetes resources. In the general process, the developer actually create the Kubernetes YAML file to define where's my container image, and then what kind of application, and then where is my services, like a Kubernetes services. But for that, you of course need to containerize the application, use a Docker or a Podman, and push into that image some containerize, etc. But this extension automatically generates that kind of resources YAML file automatically, which is pretty easy to deploy your application to Kubernetes. And also, I'm going to add a Kubernetes config extension, which allows my Quarkus Java application to access directly to Kubernetes resources. So I'm going to make sure my application, my local access to remote Kubernetes. The namespace is my name, Daniel O, the dev environment. And I'm going to stop the local thing. And then back to the web browser. This is my OpenShift cluster, which is based on Kubernetes. And then it's a Red Hat developer program, provides the free Kubernetes cluster for 30 days. You can just sign in, and you got a new cluster in 5 minutes. And you can keep updating, keep using when you expire. This is really cool. I already deployed the PostSQL database, which is exactly the same version of a container image on my local machine. And then this is a PostSQL, and then the same namespace and DOH and dev. And then back to the application. And then I'm gonna packaging this application now. However, but for that, I needed to actually go back to application properly, and I need to set all the JDB connection stuff, because previously Quarkus Dev Services let me connect to PostSQL database on my local based on container image. With the dev services, I don't need to add any configuration, the username, password, and JDBC URL. However, in the production, I cannot use the dev service because that's not my local. So I need to set my PostSQL stuff. So here's the PostSQL, JDBC PostSQL, and then let's say the database name, the person, and the schema name is person. And I'm going to create two new data schema. And then that's why I don't need to create DML and a DDL stuff. And this is a prefix is really interesting because the Quarkus provide a unified compilation. You don't need to create a separate compilation like a property or a YAML file. So Quarkus provide prefix like a dev, test, and production. You can also customize any prefix. For example, dev means that when you run Quarkus dev, with the dev prefix only pick it up by Quarkus dev mode. When you run, for example, Maven Battlefy, the Quarkus only pick that up based on the test prefix. When you package in Quarkus application or Maven packaging or Gradle build, only like a product prefix pick that up. If you don't any kind of prefix, it's a Quarkus picked up all kind of configuration. So I just deleted it. This is not dev mode. And then I'm gonna need to load script thing here with load script here is the import the SQL file. I just save a file, and I also needed to where is my Kubernetes stuff? Here's Kubernetes deploy. I'm going to deploy Kubernetes stuff. And also Kubernetes deployment target. You can choose the 3 different target. One is Kubernetes, the other is the Red Hat OpenShift, and also Knative for deploy serverless application. And then I'm going to expose the route URL, which allows me to access my microservice application using a fully qualified domain name. So I'm going to use that. And then so the OpenShift cluster by default using TLS termination. That's why I'm going to make the trust that kind of trust certificate. That's it. That's all. And I'm going to try to build my application. I'm going to skip unit test because I already verified my continuous testing stuff. It also save a little bit my demo time. And in the meantime, it already creating Java file. You can also enable compilation. But today I'm going to just using the Java JVM stuff. And then based on OpenJDK 17, and then you can also using Docker file predefined on your Quarkus project. It's automatically generated for JVM here using OpenJDK base image, and then where is my target job file. So Quarkus actually call not Uber and Thinjar. So we call that fastjar because Quarkus override Java class order, which a little bit improve your class path, and then it's pretty much a little bit faster to run your Quarkus application at the start of time. That's why we can say fast jar, and then it actually not under target directory. It's not right under target directory. It's one more depth. But you can also packaging your legacy jar just under target directory like a Uber jar stuff. And then here's the native executable file using the Docker file. And then so it's small micro basic image also. You can take any one Docker file to containerize it for your application to push that image into your relevant container registry. Okay, and then when you go back to browser, and then you can actually go to like a build, and then you can find that the application build is now starting, and then go to logs, and then it will showcase the same logs when I run here. So what I'm going to do next thing is, as you can see, in the meantime, it takes us some time. So when I go back to application property, and you can see here, I just set my database credential here directly my application. Username, user, password is super secret. But that's definitely not super secret because everybody read that. So that's why I want to just moving this DB credential into Kubernetes secret. Because I already created Kubernetes secret, you can find that maybe I'm going to just kubectl get secret, and then it will. I already created a bunch of secret, and one of them is the DB credential, and also I already created config map, which is the same thing like return the Quarkus stuff. As you can see, here's my config here. So when you go to OpenShift cluster and just push it successful, go to config map, and then here's my config, and then you can see the value is the Quarkus 3, not Quarkus 2. And then the secret and the DB credential, rebuild the values. You can see the same user and super secret. So now I'm going to switch to my application logic to access these Kubernetes resources. But for that, let's try to back to my topology and then make sure my application deploy here. Back to here, just to succeed, and then in almost 3 minutes. And then I'm going to just open my application logs, and then it's a return stream. Oh, this is not this PostSQL. Again, I'm going to try to Kubernetes Java and the right poke. And then now you can see the database is automatically created here. The data is automatically created, then team and things like that. And you can see the production activate no live coding because in the container it's immutable. You don't need to change. You can actually change that, but however, that's not a recommendation. Yeah, technically you can do whatever you need. Yeah, that's the thing. And then I just copy the route URL, and then back to my terminal, and then let's try to access to that kind of stuff. For example, hello, and then yeah, hello JForCos 2023, and then what about the greeting? And now I can see Kubernetes Java with the Quarkus 2. And then one last thing is the person. Okay, I got the result exactly same thing. My local, it's pretty perfect. So I don't expect any kind of some phone call at the middle of the night from my SR team because I'm pretty sure my application is totally working from my local and the Kubernetes cluster. But I cannot say my application totally Kubernetes-native Java apps because it's pretty much like a traditional way, like a cloud-native way, not Kubernetes-native way. So now I add, did I already add the, back to the POM XML? Yeah, I already did Kubernetes config stuff. And then back to the application. And I gotta add to a few configuration to access the Kubernetes resources. So Kubernetes to config map, enable true. And also, I'm going to add the Kubernetes config map, which is config map is my config. And then also, I'm going to enable Kubernetes secret to access that. And what is the secret name? It db credentials. Okay, that's it. That's all I have. And then, what's that? Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Thanks for that. Okay, that's good. So you just saved my time. Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. Okay, so I'm going to try to deploy my application to Kubernetes for that. And then once but maybe I'm going to try to another interesting part here. Let's say, so just sometimes you deploy application to Kubernetes, and then you got some unexpected error. And then how do you want to do fix that problem? Yeah, you're going to try to find out some application logs. Okay, but the beauty of the Kubernetes is just kill the pod. Because the Kubernetes keep monitoring your application health status, and they keep checking, oh, your application doesn't respond anymore. Okay, I'm going to kill that and then restore. And then, but it keep happening. But in the meantime, the pod is gone, and then your application log is also gone. And how to figure out what kind of error I got? But sometimes you got some nice logging infrastructure based on like a Dynatrace or a 60 or a Datadog, whatever they call, pretty awesome, fantastic. However, it's not easy for individual developer to get access to their logs. You can actually open the ticket, I urgent matter, and I need to access that system to get the log. Okay, and then they give it some permission, it's a temporary permission in 2 hours. But in the meantime, you already thousands of millions of logs in the infrastructure. It's not easy to find out. However, if you could replicate that error just like your live coding capability, I already showcased at the very beginning. I got some already got some error. You got a 404 error. You got some non-available key and value error. Because that is the beauty of live coding. If you could that same capability from your local to remote Kubernetes cluster. So that is Quarkus provide a remote dev out-of-the-box feature. So in order to that, I'm going to add a few more here configuration like a package type. You know, so one of the beauty of the Linux container technology is the immutability and portability, which means that you can just packaging container deploy, and then you can actually change it technically. But when you restart container, it's all gone, just RAM memory. So that's why I can say immutability. However, we're going to make a mutable Java application, which is a mutable container. And then you're going to keep changing them for like investigating or troubleshooting stuff. And I'm going to library loading stuff. So it's password just between your local and remote Kubernetes cluster. You can say anything kind of stuff, like any random word here. And then library reload once again. And the URL, which is the endpoint, your application. So let's go to copy and this endpoint. And the one last thing is Quarkus. This is an environment OpenShift. Environment variable is Quarkus. And launch. And then mode equal true. No typo? Okay. Okay, I just save file. And then back to here. Where's terminal? Okay, here we go. And then I'm going to try to build my application once again. And it will take another like 2 minutes. And then I got a little bit interesting question around Quarkus native, and then like compared to Spring Native also. So if you have some same question, feel free stop by the Red Hat booth. I got a little bit spoiled. And then normally the Quarkus, the JVM is really fast. So it's pretty much similar to Spring Native based on Spring Native 3 and Spring Boot 3 and the RACE GraalVM version. Because the Quarkus actually designed at the very beginning ahead of time compilation strategy and the reactive programming and the native compilation as well. So once I deploy this application, the first thing I needed to make sure my application is still working, connect to database, not from my local configuration. It's pretty much reporting to my Kubernetes configuration. And also, that is actually Kubernetes secret for store data credential. And also, I'm going to try to access the grading resources which store configuration Quarkus 3, previously Quarkus 2. In the last step, I'm going to try to connect to my Kubernetes cluster from my local environment to access to remote Kubernetes cluster. So that's what I wanted to do that. And then, so there are a bunch of the more Quarkus, the dev services. For example, go to Quarkus dev services here. Services here. So, for example, here's many dev services here. So, like a messaging broker and a data service, there are many like a PostgreSQL, Oracle database, and IBM DB2, and a MySQL, and a Microsoft SQL Server, and then in the MongoDB, and a bunch of the NoSQL. You can also use the DynamoDB on AWS, and then like a single sign-on or Keyclaw, and then like a memory a cache, like a Redis, and then Infinite Span, and also like a automation, like a business automation stuff, like a Cogito, and then Kafka cluster. So there are a bunch of the backend server you have to take care of when you're developing application, because you're not going to develop only like a hello world application, because your business application connect to backend services like a memory data grid, and then database, and a messaging broker, and a Kafka cluster. But the problem is, and challenge for developer, where I actually configure that kind of stuff, and even if I run Docker container, and then which version I need to use, and then which configuration, like a key and value I need to set up to connect to that kind of stuff. Maybe you already spend a lot of time, and you spend a lot of time to experience that kind of backend server. That's not a problem. Maybe you can just set it up in 5 minutes. However, you don't have any experience to connect to that backend server. Maybe spend like more than 2 hours and just exploring the Stack Overflow or Google searching, things like that. Okay, back to the terminal, and still out there. Okay, and then once it's done, and then new application coming up here. So I gotta have a few more left, and then good for me. But I gotta actually double check the conference Wi-Fi internet is all, because my cluster, this cluster actually running on United States, and then United States East Coast zone in AWS. So maybe that's a little bit network latency from here Stockholm to the East Coast United States. Okay, so that's the little bit give it some more time. And then one other thing is I want to show, but not today, but the Quarkus coming from new stuff in the Quarkus 3 a little bit spoiled again. So Project Loom, everybody heard about that, I'm pretty sure. And then I heard some of the talk related to Project Loom. It's a virtual thread. It's pretty awesome to improve your Java productivity. And then the Quarkus 3 actually embraces the Project Loom as well. And to maybe it's a more multiple choices for developer. You can run the Quarkus application on JVM. Maybe you don't need to even use GraalVM for neighbor comparison, because you can use the Project Loom. It's a pretty much high performance and faster startup time, etc. And then like a micro profile 6, it's a more enterprise capability, like a fault tolerance, open API, and then the REST client and things like that. You can bring the Hibernate 6 as well. And then there are some Linux kernel management directly from Quarkus framework. And then more pre-fancy WUI, as you can see. They're almost done, the push successful. And then now it's just deploy new application. And let's try to go back to here, and you can see it's a rolling upgrade automatically. We're not going to lose any network traffic in the meantime. And so now go to my application build logs here. And then hopefully it will show up the database stuff to create the new data, my name and team, Sam, etc. Okay, now we got that kind of stuff. Okay, I'm so relieved right now. Okay, and then as you can see, so dev activated and live coding activated on the Kubernetes. And then let's go back to, back to my terminal. And then let's try to access to hello. Actually greeting. It will show Quarkus 3. Not Quarkus 2. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot that. So, but don't worry, I'm gonna change that. And then let's try to go to person. Okay, it's still there. Okay, because I missed that, changing my application. Okay, now I'm gonna change my application. For example, now I'm gonna delete that one, and then just using my secret on the Kubernetes secret file, and then password. And I'm also changing my application here. So name is my config name. Okay, I just saved two file. Okay, let me go back to here. And then terminal window. And then I'm going to try to run using Maven command, Quarkus remote dev. It's exactly same Quarkus dev mode, but one different thing is at the end of the bottom, it tried to connect to my remote Kubernetes cluster. As you can see, the remote connects just the remote connect the remote server. And then back to here. And then I'm going to try to password. And then here, my config, save a file. And then here we go. I'm going to try to person invoke the REST API. In the meantime, Quarkus automatically detect what kind of application file, change that. You can see application property, just change that. And then back to the here. Oh, I got some error here. Oh, I should call that kind of stuff previously. Okay, so application property and username, password. Okay, let me give it a try one more time to build the application. But what I want to showcase today is actually, and I changed the application, and it automatically Quarkus detect which application profile, and then Java class, and then Java file, change that, and it detect it and automatically build the Java file and sending to the remote Kubernetes in a second. And then it happening when you just invoke the RESTful API, and then you can, because you don't need to recompile and repackaging Java container image and push it to the registry and pull down your Kubernetes cluster. So it's literally just a live coding happening from your local to the remote cluster. But I'm not gonna say you're gonna use this remote dev feature into your real production, because sometimes you're gonna change something, it totally maybe can be messed up your production environment. So, and then your SRE team leader does not allow you to make that happen. But however, it's still worth trying this kind of stuff on your pre-product or somewhere Kubernetes cluster to replicate that kind of issue. So I don't think I can make it up, but so here's the thing. Let me give it a, so I have 2 minutes left. And then here we go, and I actually the master slide here. So I already pre-recording this whole demo, as well as the separate demo, live coding, remote dev, and the other stuff. Here's my YouTube handler. So Daniel OTV Bini URL, or the YouTube like Daniel 030 is a YouTube handler. You feel free to subscribe and then ask any kind of stuff. Even if you can ask, hey Dan, I really want to run something new around not Quarkus, more Spring Cloud, or some kind of how to deploy my application Kubernetes, or how to enable like a Argo City stuff with my like a pre-old like a the Java EE enterprise application. I'm more than happy to create a new technical demo and a tutorial and running on in the like a video stuff channel, because a lot of people more prefer to watch YouTube and live streaming rather than a long like some blog post article. Okay, and then so Okay, it takes more time, and then so I don't think I can finish this demo, but so it totally working when you go back to my terminal and my YouTube channel, and then once you deploy this application, and then just to make sure the last page is working, and then just change it to my application property, and like even C code file, you can add insert the command line. It's totally working. That is the beauty of the Quarkus the remote dev. So whole kind of feature, it will increase the developer productivity. So for example, one last thing. So the Vodafone Greece, they actually changed a lot of Spring Boot application to Quarkus due to this developer productivity and some resource performance issue. They're still working on migrating Spring Boot to Quarkus in a step by step because they already got many benefits as a developer, even if you can start in day one to develop application without any steep learning curve. Thanks again for joining today, and feel free to reach out to me any question. Enjoy the rest of the JFocus. Thanks a lot.